Hey again guys, and welcome back. I have this awesome 8-foot long workbench that I've built by myself, and unfortunately I can't really use it because it's dark. You can see my shadow here on my arm. I don't do very well in low light, and so it's time for me to install some LEDs. Now the LEDs I'm going to install are these 90 plus CRI LEDs I got in a previous mailbag, and I'm going to put them underneath here, and I'm probably going to put 2 strips wide going across this way in front of these brackets. So if you can see like that, in front of these brackets all the way to the end, so that they give me enough light for this sort of cutting mat surface I've got here, and for this cry cut, so I can start doing videos on the cry cut or Cricut, whatever you want to call it, and stuff like that. I've got these power bars already put up, like you have seen in a previous video, but this time I'm gonna have to put up this power supply, and I'm thinking I'm gonna put it underneath the desk here, just about on this piece of wood, to keep it shielded away from any debris landing on it. See, it's nice and hidden. And probably try to keep the noise down. If I need to, I can build a cover over it. We'll have to see about that. This video looks different because I'm filming it on my Pixel 3a, in case you're wondering. So as for the power connections, I've got this really shitty extension cord I've made out of a really bad cable that came with my 3D printer. So I'm going to take one of the ends off and put it right on these screw terminals. I'm also going to find some wire to bring the 12 volts up to here, and I'm going to anchor all the wires with these stick-on anchors and some zip ties. So this is going to be a ever-evolving project because there's a few things I want to add over time. I want to add like an on-off switch for both the power supply and for the lights. Eventually this power supply is going to power my D3806, and so I need it to be able to bring power all the way across to my workbench over here, where you're more used to seeing. And yeah, I just want to add a whole bunch of other stuff, maybe some ambient lighting and all sorts of weird stuff like that. So, you know, if you want to see all these things, stick around. First things first, I'm going to have to cut 2 strips roughly that length. It's about 6 feet. The shelf up here is about 6 feet, and it stops short because or else the 3D printer wouldn't fit on this bench, because the 3D printer is actually taller than the shelf. I can line that up for you. As you can see, it's taller. So I had to stop the shelves short, which is nice because I found some 6-foot long shelves. So I'm going to cut 2 lengths, about 6 feet of this strip, and I'll bring it over to the bench. We'll wire up the power supply. We'll put a few little pieces of wire onto the strips, and then we're going to come back over this way. I think the first thing I want to do is to connect this extension cord onto this power supply. Now, I don't use this extension cord a lot because this wire is pretty shit, so I don't want to pull 15 amps through it, just in case. So yeah, I don't mind taking this apart and using this, but eventually I'm probably going to have a case for this and a IEC connector or something like that going on. So again, this is a work in progress, and there'll probably be about 20 videos on my power supply here by the time I'm done. There we go, pull this apart. Here are my wires, And we've got, it should be live, neutral, and ground in that order. So since the live is going to be the blue here, neutral is brown, and ground is the European ground, the yellow with green stripe. Okay, so yeah, I think it was, I just got lost. Blue is live. Gonna twist these up. They've been crimped for a little while. So just gonna confirm this with the multimeter. I'm going to probe the live here, and it should be the blue. Yep. Okay. That's good. So blue, go into the live connection here. You gotta be careful with this cover, because I know that on my other power supply this cover actually broke. So some of you that don't like my lighting setup will be happy that this thing will be installed, because then it'll let me experiment with different lighting from different LED strips. So instead of using my sort of studio kind of direct lights, I might build some much longer, much more diffused lights using the high CRI strip, and probably end up with a better lighting situation after a little bit of experimentation. So that is the plan, and at the same time it'll have the added benefit that my live lighting will be even better. So just need to get the ground on here. Now the reason why this is not going to be permanent like this is because there's no way to get strain relief like this. So I'm going to have to actually secure the jacketed cable elsewhere, just to make sure I can't pull out these wires and have live ends exposed. I actually have some crimp terminals on the way as well. So that's good, and that's done. You can kind of pop this over to the side. Next step is going to be to wire up, well, let me fix this, and I'm going to wire up some little bits of wire to the LED strip. I've got my two 6-foot lengths of LED strip. I'm really hoping this will be enough light because there's not many LEDs left on the roll, and yeah, I really want to make sure I'm gonna have enough to experiment with some new lighting. This stuff is really expensive, so I'm gonna have to be careful about that. Just gonna pull off this the stuff they put on from the factory. I'm going to use a little bit more flexible wire, and I'm also going to use a little bit longer wire because I'm going to modify this. One of the things I may do down the road is add dimming. So add some sort of PWM dimming. So I want enough length because I don't want it, once this is stuck up there on the shelves I showed you, it's going to be too difficult to solder up there. So I'm going to just use the length of wire that I have in order to, oh, I'm going to melt my mat again, in order to modify my stuff. So I'm just going to cut, I've got lengths of 18 gauge silicone wire, using silicone for this because this is going to be a sort of a permanent fixture. I'm pretty sure I don't need to prototype this. I know I want lights up there. The only thing I might change is I might want more lighting up there, and so I can use my fancy silicone wire. I do have to order some more though. I'm running a bit low. There we go. And plus this stuff remains super flexible, so I will be able to move it around and secure it and do whatever I need to do more easily because it is flexible. The PVC stuff could put a lot of strain on the adhesive on the back of this stuff. Mind you, if the adhesive fails, then we're just going to super glue it up in place. Alright, so this time, unlike all the other times, I have the positives in the same direction. So they're both at the bottom of the strip here. So it shouldn't be a problem. Let's just pre-tin this. You got to be careful. You don't want to get this too hot. Especially, ouch, that was a flux splatter. Especially the cheaper strips. This stuff is kind of premium. Like the copper is very thick, so they're not as flexible. But that also means that they heat up slower, they're more resistant to overheating. But it will take a little bit more effort if you're not used to it. I should really pre-tin all of these wires. I'll just pre-tin them flat on the mat here. So pre-tinning is a fantastic way to make sure your solder joints go quickly, because all you're doing is remelting the solder at that point. Just got to be careful of your little fingers there, not to get burnt. It'd be ideal if I had a set of helping hands. I know some of you guys are just yelling at the screen. I don't like my helping hands. They're not great. If I have to pump a lot of heat into something, I'll use them. But until then, I'll just keep doing it this way. It's not too bad. There we go. Just a little bit of finessing, and you can get this done pretty easily. There we go. Okay, and now we'll just bring these two together and heat them up, and they'll reflow together. There we go. And that connection is good to probably a couple of amps. Yeah, the connection's done, but it's just a little weary. Because don't forget, you can't re-solder once it's up on the ceiling there, on the shelf, because the angle and the wood will mean that it's going to be too hard, too difficult. There we go. And what's great about the silicone wire, as well as their flexibility, is that you don't melt the insulation. It'd be really hard to melt silicone insulation. So you can just lay on the heat, and as long as your fingers can handle it, the insulation's not going to curl back. There we go. Okay, so all that's left now is up top, these two are going to be connected together and to the wire feeding them by these Wago connectors. And so the Wagos have one special requirement, is that you need to strip the wire to roughly 10 millimeters, which is here on the guide. So you can just put this like this, sort of mark it out there. And I strip silicone wire using my thumbnails. So sort of like that. Same thing here. Oh, that one's a bit short. There we go. And last one, like there. There we go. And now I'm going to group these together. So here's our positive. And our other positive. And these should make a good enough connection. I don't have any qualms having that up there. I don't think it'll heat up. There we go. And our two negatives. These things blended right into the bench. There we go. And now I just need to get my D36 or 3806 and we'll light these up, see the current draw, and go from there. Got my power supply ready. I'm fairly confident nothing's shorted, but one way to find out. Here it goes. So they're on. They're quite bright. Hopefully they're going to be bright enough. This thing is making a lot of switching noise. And if I check, they're doing 4.5 amps. So yeah, I certainly hope that's going to be enough light, because if not, that's going to suck. I'm going to use, 1/8 or more of my power supply's total capabilities, but whatever, that's what I bought it for. Let's go stick these up on the shelf. Well, I really tried to do it while showing you what I was doing, but it was very finicky. So basically the plan is I wanted them away from the edge a little bit, because where I sit, which is actually right behind the camera when I edit and whatever, I'm actually below this, so I didn't want this shining in my eyes. So I want to give me the option of putting a little stopper here to stop the light shining directly in my eyes. I also wanted them as far apart as possible because I want to play with different diffusion. So that's going to be for that. But here it is, not super laser straight, but definitely acceptable. And I did cut them very slightly short, so it doesn't go to the end here, but that's okay. I think I'm okay with that, because that'll light up my Cricut projects. See the Cricuts right there? Just fine. But I'm at the point now where I've got the wires here, so that's good to go. And if you look down, I've temporarily hooked it up to the power supply, so you guys will get to see this turn on for the first time at the same time as me. I have not seen this yet. So here it goes. The camera will auto adjust, but that's okay. Let's flick this on. Holy crap. This looks so much better already. This is so well lit. It's a little bit scant on the Cricut side, but not bad actually. And that in the back there, that's not the strips hanging down, that's a piece of wire. So there are the high CRI LEDs, and this looks a million times better already. In fact, I might even be able to do my live streams from this table here, which would be pretty awesome. If I sit down on my computer chair, sorry for the wobbly camera. So this is what I see. So they are a bit bright, but maybe at some point I'll make a shield to stop myself from seeing that. I'm also going to want a light underneath here where my shelves are, but that's going to be for a future project. So for now, I think we're just going to tidy up the wires with my little cable management hooks up here. Put the power supply down there, and then run some wires from the power supply up the wall to these wires here, and we'll call it a day for this video. Alright, I think I'm at a good point now. So you see there are my cable management sort of pyramids there. That's what it looks like here. It's taking the strain off of the wires coming off these strips. So that one has its own, then they go into this one, they go into this one, then they go to the Wago connectors, and then I have some, this is 16 gauge wire, silicone wire. This is wire that was pre-cut at this length from China. You get like 3 of these. They're about 3 feet. So if we go down, they go all the way to the power supply. So the power supply, I put zap straps on it to hold it onto this piece of wood right here. And I also strapped the main AC wire coming out of there to provide some strain relief, which goes around into this bundle and up to right there. So these red and black wires are a little bit thicker gauge, and they go right to the terminal blocks there and there. And that means that this thing is now usable, secured and everything. And now I get my beautifully lit workspace. So this is just step 1 on my little LED lighting adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching.